Today, I want to talk about some of the most massive open world games that have like a ton of content you'll keep exploring, just finding new shit to do, and just get lost in the world. Now, I ain't saying these are infinite games. All I am implying here is that these are huge, massive games with hundreds of hours of content, vast open worlds, great gameplay loop that is for sure worth your time. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I gotta talk about this one because this game is absolutely massive, and it is not for everybody. I'm gonna say that right up front. Like, if you played the first Kingdom Come Deliverance and you bounced off it because it was too slow, too clunky, too much like a medieval life simulator rather than a power fantasy RPG, this sequel might not change your mind. But if you were like me and you got absolutely hooked on that whole experience of being a nobody in 1400s Bohemia trying to figure out how to swing a sword without getting your ass kicked, then dude, Kingdom Come 2 is like everything that first game was, but bigger, more refined, and just packed with an absurd amount of stuff to do. So you're playing Henry again, right? Henry of Skalitz, and the game picks up pretty much where the first one left off. You're still on this revenge quest, you're still wrapped up in all this political intrigue with nobles and wars and all that historical stuff. And I gotta say, Warhorse Studios really committed to this whole historical accuracy thing again. Like, they did their homework. The map is set in this region of medieval Europe, and they've recreated castles, towns, landscapes based on real places in real history, and you can feel that attention to detail everywhere. It's not like Skyrim where you've got dragons and magic and you're the chosen one. You're Henry. You're a blacksmith's son who learned how to fight and got caught up in some serious stuff. But you're not special in the grand scheme of things, and I love that about these games. Now let's talk about the open world, because holy crap, it is huge. Like, the first game had a pretty decent sized map, but this one, they've expanded it significantly. You've got multiple major cities, dozens of smaller villages, forests, rivers, castles, bandit camps, all this stuff spread out across this massive medieval landscape. And here's the thing that I think makes it feel even bigger. There's no real fast travel in the traditional sense. I mean, you can fast travel from certain points if you're not in danger and you're on a road, but the game really wants you to travel. It wants you to get on your horse and ride from town to town and encounter stuff along the way. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, oh man, this is gonna get tedious. But then I started to really appreciate it because, like, this is how you discover so much of the content in this game. The amount of side content in Kingdom Come 2 is just wild. Like, I'm talking probably 60, 70, maybe 80 hours if you really want to see most of what's here. The main story alone is probably like 30, 40 hours depending on how you play, but then you've got side quests upon side quests upon side quests. And these aren't just like go kill 10 bandits fetch quest type things. A lot of them are these multi-layered stories with choices and consequences and different ways to approach them. You'll stumble into a village and someone will mention that their daughter went missing. And that turns into this whole investigation where you're talking to people, following clues. Maybe you find out she ran away with some guy, or maybe she got kidnapped by bandits, or maybe there's some darker conspiracy going on, and you can handle it in different ways. You can be diplomatic, you can be aggressive, you can sneak around, you can bribe people, you can threaten people. The game gives you options, and I really appreciate that. Even in 2026, this thing is still the gold standard for what a massive open world should actually look like. When people talk about tons of content, usually that's just code for a map covered in repetitive icons that feel like chores, but here, every single icon on that map usually leads to a story that's better written than most full-price games. I jumped back into Velen recently, and man, the atmosphere still just hits you in the face. It's muddy, it's gross, it's depressing, and I love it. It feels like a real place where people are actually struggling to survive. You go from the war-torn swamps of No Man's Land to the massive, bustling city of Novigrad, and then you sail to Skellige, which is just breathtaking with those snowy mountains and giant sea monsters. You're not just moving from point A to point B, you're existing in this space where the weather changes. The sun sets over these incredible vistas, and you just find yourself stopping to look at the view. The thing that really hooks me, and I think it's why we're all still talking about it, is the side quests. In most games, a side quest is go kill 5 wolves. In The Witcher 3, you go to kill a monster, but then you realize the monster is actually a cursed person, and the guy who hired you is actually the villain, and suddenly you're making these heavy moral choices that actually change the world. It's those micro moments, the small, poignant anecdotes you find in a dropped letter or on a corpse that make the world feel alive. You'll be 100 hours in and still finding stories that genuinely surprise you. And don't even get me started on the DLC. Hearts of Stone has one of the best villains in gaming history, and Blood and Wine is basically a whole-ass sequel disguised as an expansion. You get this entire new region, Toussaint, which looks like a fairy tale but has that dark Witcher underbelly. Between the base game and the expansions, you're looking at well over 150 hours if you're really taking your time and soaking it in. Now, I'll be the first to admit it's definitely got some of that Witcher jank. Geralt sometimes moves like a shopping cart with a broken wheel, and the combat can feel a little floaty compared to something more precise. Sometimes you'll be trying to loot a herb and you'll accidentally ignite a candle for the 55th time, and it can be incredibly frustrating. But like I always say, I'll take a little bit of jank if it means the game has this much soul and this much to say. It's just a good-ass game that manages to be absolutely massive without ever feeling empty. If you want a world you can truly get lost in for a month, this is it. I rolled credits on this thing after an absurd amount of hours, and I'm still kind of sitting here like, man, they really did that. They really took what was essentially the Leaving Midgar section of the original and turned it into this gigantic, dense, almost overwhelming open-world RPG that just keeps throwing stuff at you. And I mean that in a mostly good way. So first off, the world. The open world here is broken up into these big regions. Grasslands, Junon, Coral, Gongaga, Cosmo Canyon, Nibble, all that. And they're not seamless in the traditional giant map sense, like say a Skyrim style thing, but each region is big, like genuinely big. You get your chocobo, you're roaming around, there are landmarks in the distance, weird towers, ruins, giant mecha reactors looming over the horizon. It feels like a world map from the original game, fully realized. And what I appreciated is that each region has its own identity. The grasslands feel bright and adventurous. Junon's region has this militarized, oppressive energy with that huge cannon structure just dominating everything. Gongaga is this lush, messy jungle that's kind of a pain to navigate, intentionally so. Cosmo Canyon is all verticality and red rock and wind. They didn't just make one template and recolor it. Every area has its own traversal quirks and environmental storytelling. Now, is it overloaded with icons? Yeah, it definitely is. You climb a tower and suddenly the map lights up with activities. Combat challenges, life springs, summon shrines, excavation sites, proto-relic stuff. It can feel checklisty if you approach it like you need to clear everything before moving on. I definitely hit that point where I was like, okay, I need to chill and just do what I actually feel like doing. But here's the thing, the side content is surprisingly good. The world intel stuff ties into Chadley again, and I know some people groan at that, but mechanically it feeds into meaningful rewards. You're unlocking stronger summons, deeper combat simulations, and you're getting more context about the planet. Some of the side quests are standard RPG fare, go here, fight this, collect that, but a lot of them are character-driven. They flesh out party members in ways the main story doesn't always have time for. And since this game leans hard into relationship values and affinity moments, doing optional content actually matters. It builds toward those gold saucer dates and emotional beats later. Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain is just a massive tactical sandbox. There's just something about the way Kojima handles an open world that feels different from everything else out there. The core loop here is just immensely satisfying. You're dropped into these huge maps in Afghanistan or the Angola-Zaire border, and the game basically just says, here's your objective, figure it out. It's a full meal of a stealth game because every single mission feels like a little micro-story you're creating yourself. Whether you're sneaking in at night during a rainstorm, which looks incredible with those lighting effects by the way, or you're just going in loud with a tank, the game gives you the tools to do it. So this game is kind of wild because it's simultaneously one of the best playing stealth action games ever made, and also like notoriously unfinished. But when we're talking about open world games with tons of content, dude, MGS5 has an absurd amount of stuff to do, even if the way it's structured is a little unconventional. You're playing as Venom Snake, Big Boss, in 1984 during the Soviet-Afghan War, and later in Africa, and the game is split into these two big open world areas, Afghanistan and Africa. They're not like massive GTA-sized maps, but they're big enough with a lot of outposts, bases, villages, all spread out across these really well-designed environments. And the core gameplay loop is just phenomenal, like the stealth mechanics, the amount of freedom you have in how you approach missions. It's probably some of the best in the genre. So the content structure is mostly missions and side-offs. The main missions are these story-focused operations that advance the plot, and there are like 50 of them. But then you've got side-ops, and there are over 150 of these. And yeah, a lot of them are repetitive, like extract this soldier, or eliminate this target, or destroy this equipment. But the thing is, the core gameplay is so good that even when you're doing the same type of objective, it still feels engaging because you can approach it in so many different ways. Like you can go in full stealth, not kill anybody, Fulton everybody out. You can go loud with explosives and heavy weapons. You can snipe from a distance. You can use your buddies, and the buddy system is great. You've got D-Dog, who marks enemies for you, Quiet, who's an insane sniper, D-Horse for traversal, D-Walker, which is like a mini mech. Each buddy changes how you play, and they're all useful in different situations, and you're constantly unlocking new weapons, new gadgets, new equipment through your mother-based development. This is probably like the quintessential open world game when it comes to just sheer amount of content and detail, right? Like Rockstar really went all in on making this the most immersive Wild West experience possible. And the result is just this absolutely massive game that you can sink 100+ hours into easily. You're playing as Arthur Morgan, and you're part of the Vanderlyn gang in like 1899, right at the end of the Wild West era. And the story alone is probably 50-60 hours if you're taking your time, and it's genuinely one of the best stories Rockstar has ever done. Arthur is an incredible protagonist. He's got depth, he's got this arc, and the gang dynamics and all the characters are just really well written. But the story is almost just the foundation because the open world content is absolutely insane. The map is huge. You've got snowy mountains, dense forests, swamps, plains, deserts, multiple towns and cities, and every location feels handcrafted and alive. Like you'll ride through the world and just stumble into stuff constantly. Random encounters are everywhere. You'll find people who need help, or bandits trying to rob you, or strangers with weird side missions, or you'll witness a crime and have to decide if you want to intervene. And these aren't just one-off things. Some of these random encounters are multi-part stories that continue as you play. Then you've got the stranger missions, which are like full side quest chains. You meet these eccentric characters and help them with their problems, and some of them are hilarious, some are dark, some are just weird. There's this whole gunslinger side quest where you're tracking down legendary gunslingers. There are treasure hunts where you're following maps and clues. You can hunt legendary animals, which is its own whole thing. Like there are these special, unique animals scattered across the map, and hunting them down is challenging and rewarding. And speaking of hunting, the hunting and fishing in this game is so fleshed out. Like you can spend hours just hunting, tracking animals, studying them, getting perfect pelts to craft gear and upgrades. You gotta use the right weapon, hit the right spot, approach carefully, and fishing is surprisingly relaxing and well done. You can collect herbs and plants for crafting. There are challenges like sharpshooting challenges, hunting challenges, all these optional objectives that give you goals to work toward. Your camp is a whole system too. You're contributing money and resources to upgrade the camp, and you can talk to all your gang members, do missions for them, build relationships. You can rob stores, rob trains, rob stagecoaches. The honor system tracks whether you're playing Arthur as a good guy or a bad guy, and that affects how people react to you. The detail is just absurd. Like your horse bonding matters. You gotta feed your horse, brush it, pat it, and as you bond with it, it performs better. Your weapons get dirty and you gotta clean them. Your hair and beard grow in real time and you can style them however you want. You have to eat to maintain your weight, and being underweight or overweight actually affects your stats. Your clothes get dirty and you can take baths. Like the level of simulation here is kinda crazy. Now, here's the thing. This game is slow, like it's deliberately paced, and Rockstar really wants you to soak in the world. Animations are long and realistic. Looting a body takes time. Skinning an animal is a whole animation, and some people bounce off this because it can feel sluggish compared to other open world games. But I think that deliberate pace is part of what makes it feel so immersive. You're not a superhero, you're a cowboy living in this world. The gunplay is solid. You've got that Rockstar auto-aim and Deadeye system where you can slow down time and mark targets. It's not the deepest shooter ever, but it feels weighty and satisfying. And the missions are classic Rockstar. Some are shootouts, some are stealth, some are chases, some are just story moments. They're pretty linear, but they're well crafted and cinematic. Visually, this game is still stunning, like the lighting, the weather systems, the way a thunderstorm rolls in or the sun sets over the plains. It's just gorgeous. So this is From Software taking the Dark Souls formula and just throwing it into this absolutely massive open world. And the result is probably one of the most content-dense games I've played in years. Like if you thought previous Souls games were big, Elden Ring is on a completely different scale. The world is enormous. You've got the lands between, which is this sprawling fantasy landscape with multiple regions. You've got Limgrave, Liurnia, Caelid, which is this nightmare hellscape, Altus Plateau, snowy mountaintops, underground areas, and I'm not even listing everything. And every region feels distinct with its own aesthetic, enemies, bosses. And here's the thing that makes it different from other open-world games. Almost everything you find is handcrafted and meaningful. Like you're not collecting 500 feathers or doing busy work. When you explore and find a dungeon or a cave or a catacomb, there's actual stuff there. New weapons, spells, summons, bosses, lore. The amount of content is just staggering. There are over 80 bosses in this game, 80. And I'm not talking about repeated enemies, I'm talking about unique boss encounters with their own movesets and designs. You've got the main story bosses, which are these massive spectacle fights, but then you've got all these optional bosses hidden throughout the world. Mini dungeons are everywhere. There are like 150 plus caves, catacombs, tunnels, ruins, each with their own layout and boss at the end. And finding these is part of the fun because the game doesn't just mark everything on your map, you have to actually explore. The build variety is insane. Like you can play this game so many different ways. Pure strength build with giant weapons, dex builds with fast weapons, magic builds with sorceries, faith builds with incantations, bleed builds. You can mix and match. There are hundreds of weapons and spells to find, and so many of them are viable. And you can respec your character, so if you want to try a completely different playstyle, you can do that. I've put like 150 hours into this game across multiple characters, and I'm still finding new weapons and spells I never used. The exploration is what really hooked me. Like you'll see something in the distance, a castle, a tower, some weird structure, and you can just go there. And when you get there, there's stuff to do. Maybe there's a tough enemy guarding a chest with a cool weapon. Maybe there's an entire legacy dungeon, which are these massive, multi-layered areas that feel like classic Souls level design. Stormvale Castle, Raya Lucaria, Lendl. These places are huge with full of secrets and shortcuts, and it's so satisfying to explore them. Now, let's be real, this is a FromSoft game, so it's hard. Like, you will die a lot. Some bosses will absolutely destroy you over and over until you learn their patterns. Margit the Fell Omen at the start has probably killed more players than any tutorial boss in gaming history. But the beauty of the open world structure is that if you hit a wall, you can just go somewhere else. You can explore, level up, find better gear, summon spirit ashes to help you. The spirit ash summons are great. They let you call in AI companions to help in fights, or you can summon other players for co-op. The difficulty is still going to filter some people out, but I think Elden Ring is actually the most accessible FromSoft game because you have so many options. You can overlevel, you can use summons, you can use magic, which is really strong. You can look up where to find powerful weapons early. The game gives you tools if you're willing to explore and find them. So, you're playing as V and you're in Night City, which is this massive cyberpunk metropolis. And dude, this city just feels alive in a way that most game cities don't. Like you've got different districts. You've got the corporate center with all the skyscrapers, you've got the gang-controlled areas, the industrial zones, the rich neighborhoods, and they all have their own vibe and feel. And the verticality is insane. You're not just exploring streets, you're going up into buildings, across rooftops. There are entire areas that are layered on top of each other. The main story is really good. Like you've got Keanu Reeves as Johnny Silverhand living in your head, and the whole plot about this chip that's slowly killing you but also giving you these memories and interactions with Johnny, it's compelling stuff. The main quest will probably take you like 25-30 hours. But that's honestly just scratching the surface, because the side content in this game is where it really shines. The side jobs are legitimately some of the best side quests I've done in any game. Like, they're not just go kill this guy or fetch this item. They're full storylines with characters you get invested in. There's the Judy questline, the Panem questline, River, Carrie. These are like multi-hour story arcs with choices and consequences and different outcomes. And then you've got the gigs, which are shorter missions, but even those have like little stories and context. You're not just doing random tasks, there's always some narrative reason behind what you're doing. And I love how much freedom you have and how you approach stuff. Like, you can build V in so many different ways. You can go full combat with guns and cyberware. You can be a netrunner, hacking everything from a distance. You can do stealth and sneak through entire missions without being seen. You can mix it all together. The build variety is really deep once you start getting into the perk trees and cyberware upgrades. Like you can get mantis blades and just slice people up, or you can get projectile arms or double jump legs to reach crazy places, or slow down time when you dodge. All this cyberware stuff is fun as hell to experiment with. The gunplay is solid too. Like, it's not the deepest shooter ever, but it feels good. The weapons are varied, and when you get a build going and you're just tearing through enemies, it's satisfying. I mean, like, what can I even say about Skyrim at this point, right? This game came out in 2011 and people are still playing it, still modding it. Bethesda keeps re-releasing it on every platform that exists. And there's a reason for that. This game is just like the definition of an open-world RPG with endless content. So you're the Dragonborn, and there's this whole thing with dragons returning and you gotta save the world. But honestly, like most people who play Skyrim, you're probably gonna ignore the main quest for like 60 hours while you just wander around doing random stuff. And that's the beauty of it. The world is massive. You've got mountains, forests, tundras, cities, villages, dungeons everywhere, and the game just lets you go wherever you want from the start. You see that mountain? You can climb it. You see that dungeon entrance? You can go in there right now. The amount of content is just absurd. There are hundreds of quests. You've got the main story, but then you've got all the guild quest lines. The Thieves Guild, the Dark Brotherhood, the Companions, the College of Winterhold, the Civil War quest line. Each of these is like its own multi-hour storyline. And then there are just random side quests everywhere. You walk into a town and someone needs help with something, or you overhear a conversation that starts a quest, or you find a note on a dead body that sends you somewhere. And the dungeon crawling is like the core loop. There are so many dungeons and caves and ruins to explore, and yeah, a lot of them can start to feel samey after a while, like, oh, another Nordic tomb with Draugr, but there's something weirdly satisfying about just going into a dungeon, fighting through enemies, finding loot, getting that sweet, sweet treasure chest at the end. It's basic, but it works. The progression system is really open-ended. You level up by using skills, so like if you sneak a lot, your sneak goes up. If you use magic, those skills go up. And you can be whatever you want. A warrior with heavy armor and two-handed weapons, a sneaky archer, which is like what everyone ends up playing, a mage with destruction spells. You can mix and match. And there are these different races you can pick that have their own abilities, and standing stones that give you bonuses. The customization is really deep. Now, let's be real, this is a Bethesda game, so it's janky as hell. The combat is pretty basic and floaty, the animations are stiff, the AI does dumb things, and the bugs, oh man, the bugs. Like you'll see NPCs walking into walls, or mammoths falling from the sky, or your horse climbing a vertical cliff somehow. But that jank is almost part of the charm at this point. It's a Bethesda game, you know what you're getting into. And the modding scene is insane. Like on PC, you can mod this game into whatever you want. Graphics overhauls, new quests, new gameplay systems, quality of life improvements. People have been modding Skyrim for over a decade, and there's so much content created by the community. Even on console now, you can use mods, which is pretty cool. I think what makes Skyrim special is that it just gives you this fantasy playground and lets you do whatever. You can be the hero who saves the world, or you can be a thief who steals everything not nailed down, or you can just be a wanderer who explores and collects ingredients and avoids conflict. The game doesn't judge you, it just lets you play. You can easily put hundreds of hours into Skyrim. Like, I've played through it multiple times with different characters and builds, and it's still fun. The main quest is maybe 20 to 30 hours, but if you're doing all the guild quests and side content and exploring every dungeon, you're looking at 100+ hours easy. And that's not even counting the DLC, Dawnguard, Dragonborn, Hearthfire, which add even more content. Is it the best game ever made? Probably not. Like, objectively, there are games with better combat, better stories, better graphics, but Skyrim just nails that open world freedom and exploration in a way that still holds up. It's comfort food gaming. You always know you can jump back into Skyrim and just lose yourself in that world for hours. Fallout 4. This is Bethesda doing their open world thing in the post-apocalyptic wasteland, and man, there is just so much stuff to do in this game. Like, you can play this for 150 hours and still find new locations and side quests you never touched. You start out as this pre-war character who gets frozen in a vault and wakes up 200 years later in the wasteland, and your son's been kidnapped and you gotta find him. That's the main story hook. But like with every Bethesda game, you're probably gonna get distracted for 80 hours doing everything else before you actually progress the main quest. And the world is great for that. You're exploring this irradiated version of Boston and the surrounding Commonwealth, and there are just locations everywhere. Like, you'll be walking to one quest marker and you'll pass 5 other interesting places. Abandoned factories, raider camps, vaults, military installations, towns, and each one has its own little story or loot or enemies. The gunplay is actually pretty solid for a Bethesda game, like they really improved the shooting from Fallout 3 in New Vegas. It feels more like an actual shooter now. You've got VAT still, which is that system where you pause and target specific body parts, but you can also just play it as a straight shooter if you want. And there's a ton of weapon variety. You've got pistols, rifles, energy weapons, heavy weapons, melee weapons, and the weapon modding system is really deep. Like, you find a basic pipe pistol and you can turn it into a sniper rifle or an automatic weapon, or add scopes and suppressors and different receivers. It's addictive trying to find the parts to build the perfect gun. But the big new thing in Fallout 4 is the settlement building, and dude, this system is like crack for some people. You can build entire towns from scratch. You find these settlements across the map and you can construct buildings, defenses, farms, shops, assign settlers to jobs, create supply lines between settlements, and you can get really into it if you want. Like, people have built massive, elaborate bases with intricate designs, or you can mostly ignore it if base building isn't your thing. But it does tie into the gameplay because you need resources to build stuff. So you're scavenging everything. Duct tape, screws, aluminum cans, all this junk suddenly has value because you need it for crafting and building. There are so many side quests too. Like, some are these well-written multi-part stories, and some are these radiant quests that are randomly generated, like go clear out this location or retrieve this item. And yeah, the radiant quests can get repetitive, but they're good for when you just want to go shoot some stuff and explore. Exploring is really the heart of the game. The map is huge and it's packed with stuff. You've got major locations like Diamond City and Good Neighbor, which are these big settlements with tons of NPCs and quests, but then you've got hundreds of smaller locations. Every building you can enter usually has some story or loot or enemies, and the environmental storytelling is great. Like, you'll find skeletons in weird positions with items around them and you can piece together what happened. Or you'll find terminals with logs that tell you about the people who lived there before the bombs fell. Visually, it's decent. Like, it's not the prettiest game ever and the character models can look rough, but the atmosphere is great. The desolate wasteland vibe, the retro-futuristic aesthetic with the 1950s Americana mixed with nuclear devastation, it all works. And the music is great. The radio stations play old-timey songs from the 40s and 50s, which creates this weird contrast with the violence and destruction. You can play Fallout 4 for a ridiculous amount of time. Like, the main story is maybe 30 hours, but if you're doing all the faction quests, companion quests, side quests, exploring every location, building settlements, you're easily looking at 100+ hours. And that's before you get into survival mode, which adds hunger, thirst, diseases, and makes the game way harder and more tactical. Horizon Forbidden West is one of those games that's incredibly impressive and also very big budget open world in ways that some people are definitely tired of. You boot it up and yeah, it looks insane. The lighting, the water, the foliage density, especially if you're on PS5, it's kind of ridiculous. The West Coast setting has way more variety than Horizon Zero Dawn did. You've got deserts, jungles, snowy mountains, underwater ruins, collapsed skyscrapers you can actually climb through. Visually, it's one of those games where you'll just rotate the camera for a second and go, okay, yeah. But once the map opens up, it absolutely has that checklist energy. Tall necks to climb, rebel camps to clear, cauldrons to override, hunting grounds, relic ruins, side quests scattered everywhere. If you're the type who feels compelled to clear every icon before moving on, you might burn yourself out. It can feel very go here, do activity, watch map, clear. And I know some people bounce off it because of that. The difference for me was the combat. Fighting machines is still genuinely awesome. Every machine is like a moving boss fight. You're scanning for weak points, shooting off components so you can craft better weapons later, dodging huge AoE attacks, laying traps, switching ammo types constantly. Bigger, late-game machines like Slaughter Spines are chaotic in a way that feels earned. When a fight goes wrong, it's messy and loud and you're scrambling. But when it clicks and you dismantle something piece by piece, it's satisfying. They also expanded traversal in smart ways. The Polecaster lets you zip to ledges mid-fight, the Shield Wing glider makes vertical exploration way smoother, and once you unlock flying later, that changes how the entire map feels. You stop seeing it as terrain to slog through and start seeing it as space to move across. Now, story-wise, yeah, this is where it gets divisive. The first game had that slow burn mystery about what happened to the world, and that hook carried a lot of people. Forbidden West leans heavier into sci-fi and big lore explanations. There are more factions, more politics, more here's how this ancient tech works conversations. Some of it's cool, some of it drags. There are stretches where you're just in a room talking to someone while they dump exposition on you. Aloy herself is more developed here. She's less isolated, more forced to rely on a team. You get base conversations with companions, optional character moments, little side arcs that flesh people out. That stuff helps, but yeah, pacing-wise, it's not always tight. The side quests are actually better than most open-world games though. A lot of them have their own little stories, unique characters, and custom machine encounters. It's not just filler fetch quests over and over, but you still feel the structure underneath it all. I think the honest take is this: if you're completely over the modern open-world formula, this probably won't convert you. It plays in that space. It has the towers, it has the camps, it has the upgrade grind. But what it does really well, the machine combat, the traversal, the production value, the environmental design, that carries it hard. When you're in the middle of a storm fighting a giant robotic elephant while music swells and parts are flying off, that's when the game feels at its best. It's big, it's polished, it's occasionally bloated, but if you want a gorgeous open world with tons of combat encounters and systems to tinker with, there's a lot here. No Man's Sky. I mean, it almost feels like cheating because it's not just a map, right? It's an entire freaking universe. I know everybody knows the story of this game by now, the massive turnaround, all the updates, but I really just want to talk about the raw scale of this thing and how it actually feels to play it. Because when you talk about getting lost, No Man's Sky does it in a way that very few games can actually pull off. The game boasts like 18 quintillion planets, which is a number my brain can't even genuinely comprehend. But what makes it so crazy is that seamless transition. Like, you can be walking around on the surface of a planet, grabbing some resources, and then you just hop into your little spaceship, hold down the trigger, and completely blast off through the atmosphere and into the blackness of space without a single loading screen. That feeling, even years later, just never really gets old to me. But the way you get lost in No Man's Sky is twofold. There's the literal physical getting lost, and then there's the distraction element. You might set your ship down on some undiscovered, totally weird radioactive world because you just need to mine some copper to fix a piece of gear. It's a simple task, but you wander a little too far from your landing site. You're scanning plants, maybe feeding some of the procedural animals, which, yeah, are definitely a little janky sometimes and look like weird, contorted spore creatures, but it's charming. And then suddenly, a warning flashes on your screen. A massive, superheated rainstorm is rolling in. Your hazard protection is dropping fast, your suit is yelling at you, your screen is going crazy, and you're just panicking. You spin around and the icon for your ship is like a 15-minute walk away. You're not making it. So you're scrambling, looking for a cave, or you just pull out your terrain manipulator and literally blast a hole straight into the dirt and tuck yourself inside just to hide out and recharge your shields. You're just sitting there in this dark little hole you made, listening to the wind howl outside. Those little micro moments of survival, those things you create yourself, that is peak video game immersion for me. And because the map, the universe, is so incredibly vast, your brain just goes into pure exploration mode. You stop playing it like a traditional video game where you're checking off boxes, and you start playing it like an actual space explorer. You'll crest a hill on a completely bizarre alien planet with like glowing neon purple grass, and you look up to see this massive, absolutely breathtaking rings planet taking up half the sky. The day-night cycle hits, you get these incredible vistas, and then this really quiet atmospheric synth music by 65 Days of Static just kind of fades in perfectly. It's quiet, it's solitary, and it really makes you feel the majesty of it all. You can build massive bases, you can manage a whole fleet of freighters, there's a whole, main storyline you can follow with the Atlas and all that. But honestly, the best parts of No Man's Sky are when you completely ignore all of that. You just pick a random star system on the galaxy map, warp there, and see what you find. You are a tiny, insignificant speck in a game world that is just so unbelievably huge. And getting lost out there, managing your life support, finding weird abandoned space stations, and just dealing with the environment along the way, it all just adds up to a really good, immensely satisfying meal of a game. It is the ultimate where the hell am I simulator, and I absolutely love it. Ghost of Tsushima is probably one of the most beautiful open world games I've ever played, and it's also just packed with content. Like, Sucker Punch really went all in on creating the samurai fantasy set during the Mongol invasion of Japan. And the result is just this gorgeous, satisfying game that respects your time while also giving you tons to do. You're playing as Jin Sakai, just samurai who has to defend Tsushima Island from the Mongol invasion. And the story is really good. It's about Jin having to choose between his samurai honor and doing whatever it takes to save his people, even if that means becoming the ghost and using these dishonorable tactics like stealth and assassination. It's a solid character arc, and the main story will probably take you like 20-25 hours, but there's so much more beyond that. The island is just stunning to explore. Like every location feels handcrafted and beautiful. You've got forests, fields, temples, villages, beaches, mountains, and the art direction is incredible. The game has this almost painterly quality to it, especially if you play in Kurosawa mode, which makes it black and white like old samurai films. And the way the wind guides you to objectives instead of traditional waypoints, or how you follow birds and foxes to find secrets, it's just elegant design that keeps you immersed. The combat is so satisfying. Like you've got sword fighting that's all about timing and stance switching. There are different stances for different enemy types. Stone stance for swordsmen, water stance for shield guys, wind stance for spear users, moon stance for brutes, and you're switching between them mid-combat, parrying attacks, doing perfect dodges, and it just flows so well. And then you've got the ghost weapons, kunai, smoke bombs, sticky bombs, and you can approach encounters as a straight-up samurai or go full stealth as the ghost. Both playstyles are viable and fun. The standoffs are amazing. Like you can challenge enemies to a duel, and it's this tense moment where you're waiting for them to attack, and you gotta time your strike perfectly. Get it right, and you instant kill them. And you can chain standoffs together to take out multiple enemies before a fight even starts. It never gets old. Side content is everywhere. You've got these tales, which are like full side quests with stories and characters. There are mythic tales that lead you to legendary gear and techniques. You're liberating Mongol outposts and farmsteads. There are fox dens where you follow a fox to a shrine and get a charm slot. Hot springs where Jin reflects on stuff and you get max health increases. Haiku spots where you compose a haiku and unlock new cosmetics. Bamboo strikes that are like rhythm minigames that increase your resolve. And all of this feels meaningful. You're always getting something useful, whether it's gear or upgrades or cosmetics. So Days Gone, man, Days Gone. Like, I feel like this game has had one of the most interesting, like, second lives of any game I can think of in recent memory. Like, when this thing launched in 2019, people were like, it's okay, it's a little rough, it's a Sony exclusive, Deacon St. John is kind of a gruff biker dude, and we've seen that before, right? And then like a year, 2 years later, everybody and their mother is like, wait, Days Gone is actually really, really good. And I was one of those people. Like, I went back to this game and I just got absolutely swallowed whole by it. Like, genuinely could not put it down. So let's talk about it, because like, if you haven't played this one, or if you wrote it off back in 2019, I really think you're doing yourself a disservice here. Like, this is one of those open world games where the more you put in, the more it just keeps giving. And that's kind of rare, man. Like, a lot of open world games will front load you with content and then kind of run dry. Days Gone does not do that. So the setup, right? You're Deacon St. John. He's a drifter, he's a biker, he's a survivor in this post-apocalyptic Pacific Northwest, which by the way looks absolutely stunning. Like the Oregon wilderness, the forests, the mountains, the snow, it all just looks incredible, and it feels alive in a way that a lot of open world games just don't pull off. Like, you'll be riding your bike through a forest road at dusk, and the light is cutting through the trees, and there's fog sitting low on the ground, and you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. I get why people love this game. And the bike. Dude, the bike is like a whole thing. Like, your motorcycle is essentially a second character in this game, and I mean that. You are constantly managing your bike. You need fuel, like actually need to scavenge for fuel, or your bike just dies on the side of the road. You need to repair it. You can upgrade it. You can get new frames, better engines, better handling, nitrous, all of that. And it sounds like a chore on paper, right? Like, oh great, I gotta babysit my motorcycle. But in practice, it actually adds this layer of tension to everything you do. Like, you're planning your routes around fuel stops. You're scavenging camps and gas stations, not just for yourself, but for your bike. It makes the world feel real in a way that like a lot of survival games try to do and kind of miss. Days Gone just nails it. Now the world itself, like, let's really get into this, because this is where the game just goes crazy with content. The map is split into these different regions, right? You got the Highway 97 area, you got Belknap, Iron Mike's territory, you got the Crater Lake region, and then the mountain region. And each one of these areas has its own camps, its own factions, its own storylines, its own tone. And the way the game kind of opens these up to you over time is really well paced. Like, you're not just dumped into everything at once. It kind of peels back layers as you go, and by the time you get into the later regions, you are just buried in things to do. The camps are a huge part of the loop. So you got places like Tucker's Camp, Iron Mike's Farm, Copeland's Militia Camp, Wizard Island later on, and you build trust with each of these camps by doing missions for them, by bringing them meat from hunting, by clearing out freaker nests, by rescuing survivors, and as your trust goes up, their shops open up. You get access to better weapons, better bike upgrades, better gear, and it creates this really satisfying progression loop where you feel like you're actually building something, like you're actually making a difference in this world. And then you got the freakers, which, okay, look, the zombies, the freakers, whatever you want to call them, like they're not your standard slow shambling zombies. These things evolve over the course of the game. They get faster, they get more aggressive, they respond to sound and light, and the hordes, man, the hordes. That's the thing about Days Gone that like nobody was really prepared for when it launched. And I think it's the thing that sets it apart from everything else. Like there are these massive hordes of freakers, we're talking hundreds of them, sometimes up to 500 in a single horde just moving through the world. And early game, you avoid them. Like you hear that sound, that like chittering, screaming sound, and you just turn your bike around and you go the other way because you are not ready for that. But as you upgrade, as you get better weapons, better skills, better equipment, taking down a horde becomes this massive set piece that you engineer yourself. You're laying down traps, you're using attractor bombs to funnel them into choke points, you're setting propane tanks on fire, you're using the environment, and then when everything goes off and you're just mowing through hundreds of these things, it is genuinely one of the most satisfying feelings I have had in an open world game. Like it is legitimately a rush. And there are like 40-something hordes in this game, like 40. So that alone is just an insane amount of content. But okay, it's not just freakers, you also got human enemies. The Rippers, the Marauders, the DCIA guys later on, and each of these enemy factions has their own camps scattered across the map that you can clear out, which again feeds back into that progression loop, gets you credits, gets you trust, gets you crafting materials, and the camps themselves are really fun to take down because you can go full stealth, you can go loud, you can do a little of both. The AI is not perfect, like sometimes guys will do something kinda dumb, but for the most part, clearing an enemy camp feels really good, especially once you start unlocking some of the better skills in the skill tree. And the skill tree is actually pretty deep. You got combat skills, survival skills, and bike skills, and you're earning experience constantly just from like existing in this world, doing missions, killing enemies, looting stuff, and the upgrades feel meaningful, like going from early Deacon who kind of struggles with everything to late game Deacon who is just an absolute force of nature in combat. That arc feels really earned. The crafting system too, like you are constantly picking up rags and alcohol and nails and kerosene and all this stuff to make Molotovs and medkits and proximity bombs and attractor bombs and all of it. And it never really feels like busy work because you're always needing these things. Like I was always running low on something, always, which kept me scavenging, kept me exploring, kept me in the world. And the story, okay look, the story gets a bad rap, and I think that's not totally fair. Like yes, the first maybe 5 or 6 hours are a little slow. Deacon is kind of brooding and the pacing is a bit uneven at the start, but like this is a slow burn, and if you stick with it, the story really opens up. His relationship with Sarah, his search for her, his friendship with Boozer, his biker brother basically, all of that stuff has genuine heart to it. Like there were moments in this story that actually got me, real emotional beats that I wasn't expecting from a game about a motorcycle dude killing zombies. And by the time you hit the later parts of the story with the Crater Lake / neuroscientist conspiracy angle, like it escalates in a way that kept me totally hooked. The side missions in this game are also better than people give them credit for. Like, yeah, some of them are your standard go here, kill this, bring that back, but there are side characters with full storylines. There's a missing persons mystery. There's a whole thing with a character named Lisa who has this really sad storyline. There's a kid named Manny who you kind of look out for. Like there's actual character work happening in the margins of this game that rewards you for paying attention. And look, the game runs great now. Like whatever performance issues existed at launch have been patched out. On PS5, it is absolutely smooth, and on PC, which is where the game eventually came, it looks phenomenal. Like the overall vibe of Days Gone is just this really grounded, kind of melancholy, beautiful, brutal open world survival experience. And I think the reason it didn't land for everybody initially is because it asks you to kind of live in it for a bit before it really opens up. And in a world of like instant gratification gaming where everything has to hook you in the first 30 minutes, Days Gone is like, nah, ride with me for a little while, trust me. And when you do, when you get to that point where you're planning horde attacks and you've got your bike fully upgraded and you know the map like the back of your hand and the story is hitting and the world is just doing its thing around you, it just feels like one of those games that genuinely earned its place. It is a big game, like 30, 40, 50 hours easy, depending on how thorough you are, and it just keeps finding new ways to throw stuff at you all the way to the end. And that's what I want from an open world game, man. I want to feel like the world is full. Days Gone feels full, like really full. And I think that's ultimately why people went back to it and why it has the reputation it has now. It deserved better the first time around. And if you haven't played it, you're sitting on something really, really good. Mafia 3 is a weird one to talk about because it's like a game that does some things incredibly well and then other things are just like aggressively repetitive and flawed. But when we're talking about open world games with content, there is a lot to do here, even if a lot of it feels samey after a while. You're playing as Lincoln Clay in 1968 New Bordeaux, which is basically New Orleans. And Lincoln is this Vietnam vet who comes back and gets betrayed by the Italian mob, and they kill his surrogate family. So the whole game is this revenge story where you're systematically taking down the mob by building your own criminal empire. And dude, the story and presentation are actually really good. Like, the cutscenes are well done, the voice acting is great, the characters are memorable, the way they frame it as this documentary looking back on these events is cool. And the 60s setting with the music and the racial tension and the atmosphere, it's all really well realized. The problem is the gameplay loop. Like, the entire game is basically the same structure repeated over and over. You take over districts that are doing racket damage, you destroy property, kill enforcers, interrogate informants, take down the racket boss, then you assign that district to one of your underbosses. And you do this like a dozen times, and it gets repetitive fast. Like, by the third or fourth district, you've seen everything the game has to offer in terms of mission variety. But there is a lot of content. The map is pretty big. You've got different districts like the French Ward, the Bayou, downtown areas, suburbs, and each district has multiple rackets to take down. So you're looking at probably 30-40 hours if you're doing everything. The main story path is maybe 20 hours, but if you're clearing all the side stuff and optional objectives, there's more there. The combat is decent. It's cover-based shooting and it works fine. Nothing special, but it's functional. Stealth is actually pretty viable too. You can sneak around and take guys out quietly, and sometimes that's more satisfying than going loud. And there's a good variety of weapons: pistols, shotguns, rifles, explosives. You unlock new stuff as you progress. What I like is how the underboss system works. You've got Cassandra, Burke, and Beto. Each one wants territory, and you gotta decide who to give districts to. And if you favor one too much, the others get pissed and might turn on you. So there's this management aspect where you're trying to keep everyone happy while building your empire. And each underboss gives you different perks and weapons based on how much territory you give them. The driving is pretty good, like the cars handle well, they feel weighty and authentic to the era, and the city looks nice. Not the most detailed open world ever, but it captures that 60s southern city vibe. The soundtrack is fantastic too, like you're driving around listening to era-appropriate music on the radio, and it just sets the mood perfectly. Now let's talk about the issues, because there are a lot. At launch, this game was buggy as hell. Performance was rough, there were crashes, AI would do stupid things. It's better now after patches, but it's still not perfect. The mission design is just so repetitive, like you're doing the same types of objectives over and over in different locations. Blow up this truck, kill this enforcer, interrogate this guy. After a while, it's just going through the motions. And the open world feels kind of lifeless outside of missions, like there's not a ton of emergent stuff happening. You can get into police chases, which are kind of fun, but there's not much else to do beyond the main structure. No interesting side activities or distractions really. It's all focused on that racket takeover loop. But here's the thing, despite all the repetition and issues, I still found myself engaged because the story and characters are so strong. Like, every time you complete a district and there's a cutscene with your underbosses or you're getting closer to the main targets, that's compelling stuff. The narrative carries you through the repetitive gameplay, and the revenge story is satisfying. Watching Lincoln systematically dismantle this mob organization feels good, even if the actual missions aren't that varied. You can spend a decent amount of time with Mafia 3, like if you're just blasting through the story, maybe 20 hours. But if you're taking your time, doing all the rackets, getting all the optional stuff, exploring the map, you're looking at 35 to 40 hours. There are collectibles too: Playboy magazines, album covers, communist propaganda posters, and the DLC adds more content with different stories and areas. Is it a perfect game? No way. The repetition is a real problem. The bugs and technical issues at launch hurt it. The open world could be more interesting, but for the story and characters and setting alone, I think Mafia 3 is worth experiencing. Like, if you can push through the repetitive gameplay, there's a really compelling revenge tale here with great performances and a unique setting that you don't see much in games. It's one of those games where I totally get why people bounced off it. The repetition is real and it can feel like a chore, but I appreciated what it was trying to do, and the stuff it does well is good enough that I stuck with it. Just know what you're getting into. A strong narrative experience wrapped in pretty repetitive open-world gameplay. Just Cause 3 is pure chaos sandbox energy. This is not a deep RPG with layered storytelling type open world. This is, I wonder if I can attach 12 rockets to a cow and launch it into a military-based type open world. And honestly, that's the whole appeal. The map, Barichi, is huge. Mediterranean islands, coastal towns, mountains, military bases everywhere. But what makes it fun isn't just the size, it's how free you feel moving around it. Rico's wingsuit plus grappling hook plus parachute combo is still one of the best traversal systems in any open world game. Once you get the rhythm down, grapple, yank yourself forward, wingsuit glide, pop, shoot, repeat. You're flying across the map in a way that just feels good. You barely even need vehicles. The core loop is basically liberation. You go into towns or bases controlled by a dictator and you blow up propaganda speakers, fuel tanks, statues, radar dishes, anything red and explosive. And the destruction system is the real star here. Stuff doesn't just disappear. Buildings crumble, towers collapse, debris flies everywhere. You feel the impact of what you're doing. Now yeah, structurally it's repetitive. You're clearing outpost after outpost, blow up the same types of objects, trigger the same area liberated screen. If you mainline that loop for hours straight, it can get samey. The story, it's there. It's dumb action movie stuff, dictator bad, Rico smirks, explosions happen. You're not playing this for emotional depth, but the sandbox tools carry it. You can tether enemies to gas tanks, tether helicopters to the ground, attach rockets to cars and send them flying. Later you unlock gear mods that enhance the wingsuit, explosives, grappling hook strength. The game basically encourages you to mess around. It's one of those games where half your playtime is just, what happens if I try this? The physics are a little janky sometimes. Shooting isn't amazing, enemy AI isn't exactly tactical geniuses, but the spectacle is the point. You can turn a quiet military base into a full-blown fireworks show in like 90 seconds. And when you're chaining together wingsuit dives into explosive takedowns while a ridiculous action soundtrack plays, it hits that arcade power fantasy perfectly. It's not subtle, it's not deep, it absolutely leans into repetition, but if you want an open world where destruction is the main mechanic and traversal feels fast and free, this thing still delivers. Mad Max, the 2015 Mad Max game from Avalanche Studios, is just an incredibly underappreciated, wildly atmospheric game. And when we're talking about massive maps that you can literally just lose yourself in, the wasteland in this game is an absolute masterclass in making emptiness feel intimidating. It's an open world game, right? And usually when you think of huge open worlds, you think of bustling cities or dense forests. But Mad Max does the complete opposite. The entire map is a dried up ocean floor. It is just miles and miles of dunes, rusted out ship holes, jagged rock formations, and complete, utter desolation. And yet, I spent like 50 hours in this game, and I got completely sucked into the loop of it. The setup is pretty simple. You're Max, you lose your iconic car right at the beginning of the game, and you basically team up with this weird, hunchbacked mechanic named Chum Bucket to build a brand new death machine called the Magnum Opus. From there, the game is straight up just this raw, vehicular survival adventure. You're driving from the bottom of this massive map, slowly upgrading your car, taking down enemy camps, and just surviving. And getting lost in Mad Max is such a unique feeling because it's not necessarily about not knowing where to go on the map. You have hot air balloons you can go up in to scout the area. It's more about getting lost in the desperation of the world. Like there are these micro moments where you're out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. You're trying to clear out a random scavenging location just to get a few pieces of scrap so you can upgrade your V6 engine. You're low on health, so you're literally forcing Max to eat a can of dinky-dyed dog food, or like scraping maggots off a rotting corpse just to get some HP back. You have a canteen, and you're always looking for just a trickle of water to fill it up. It's a balancing act of your resources, right? And then, out of nowhere, you get the warning. A mighty duster is coming. You look out over the horizon, and there is this absolutely colossal, terrifying wall of red sand and lightning just barreling toward you. If you like that satisfaction of dealing with the environment and the pure panic of survival, dude, this is it. You have to jump in your car, your engine roaring, and just try to find shelter in a cave or an abandoned stronghold before the storm rips your car down to the chassis. Or, if you're feeling crazy, you can drive into the storm to harpoon these massive crates of scrap that are flying around in the wind, risking your life for a payout. When the physics go crazy, the wind is howling and lightning is striking the sand right next to you, it just looks and feels like pure chaotic survival. Now, the game is definitely a little janky sometimes. Like the on-foot hand-to-hand combat is that Arkham-style free-flow stuff, and it's super brutal and meaty, but it can get repetitive. And the map is filled with a lot of standard open-world checklist stuff. But for me, the story is the journey. The story is me driving the Magnum Opus over a massive sand dune, getting crazy air, and seeing Gastown pumping black smoke into the sky miles and miles away in the distance. You kinda get this language, this knowledge over the course of the game of how to navigate the wasteland. You learn to recognize the tracks of warboy patrols. You learn when to use your sniper rifle to take out a base's defenses from a cliffside miles away before you go in. And when the day-night cycle hits, you get some of the most incredible vistas and crazy vibrant orange and purple sunsets I've ever seen in a video game. It gets so quiet and you hear the wind, and you just feel the solitary nature of Max's existence. There's even a boundary to the map called the Big Nothing. If you drive off the edge of the playable map, there's no invisible wall. The game just warns you that you are entering the Big Nothing, and your car starts taking damage as the endless, infinite sandstorm just swallows you whole. It does a really good job of setting you up to realize just how isolated you really are. Between the car combat, the gritty survival elements, and just the sheer oppressive scale of the Great White, Mad Max just really worked for me. It's a good-ass game, and you will absolutely lose track of time just driving through the wastes. Sleeping Dogs. This is one of those games that I feel genuinely bad for because it came out in 2012, it got decent reviews, people played it, enjoyed it, and then it kind of just quietly faded. And that is a crime, because Sleeping Dogs is one of the most underrated open-world games ever made, full stop. And I think if this game came out today, people would absolutely lose their minds over it. So here's the situation. You are Wei Shen, Hong Kong American cop, sent undercover to infiltrate the Sun On Yi, one of Hong Kong's most powerful triad organizations. And right away, the setup is already more interesting than half the open-world games out there because you're not playing a criminal, you're not playing a hero, you're playing someone caught completely in the middle. You're doing triad stuff to earn their trust while simultaneously feeding information back to your handler. And the game constantly puts you in situations where those two identities are pulling against each other. That tension is real throughout the entire story, and it never really lets up. Wei Shen as a character is genuinely great. He's got this history with Hong Kong, grew up there, left, came back, and reconnects with old friends who are now deep in the triad life. His childhood buddy Jackie Ma pulls him into the Water Street gang, and watching that friendship evolve over the course of the game while Wei is trying to do his job, it's actually kind of heartbreaking at moments. There are beats in this story that hit harder than you expect, real weight to some of the decisions and consequences. The voice acting is excellent across the board, and the writing is sharp enough that you actually care about what's happening, which in a game from 2012 about Hong Kong triads is honestly impressive. But okay, let's talk about the world, because Hong Kong as a setting is just an absolute stroke of genius. The neon signs, the night markets, the dense apartment buildings, the fish markets, the harbor, the temple street vendors. It is just dripping with atmosphere and personality, like the city itself is a character. You walk down a street in this game and it feels lived in, it feels real, it feels vibrant in a way that a lot of open-world cities just don't manage. The density of it, the way everything is kind of stacked on top of each other, the sounds, the crowds, it just works on every level. And they actually sent developers to Hong Kong during production to do field research, and you can feel that. There's a love and authenticity to the way this city is portrayed that really comes through. Now, the combat. Oh man, the combat. This is the thing. This is the thing that Sleeping Dogs just completely owns. It is a martial arts brawler at heart, heavily inspired by Hong Kong action cinema, and it feels absolutely fantastic. Wei throws punches and kicks in these flowing combos. You can grab guys and slam them into environmental objects, slam someone into a phone booth, throw them through a market stall, shove them face first into a spinning fan, all of which has these brutal little environmental kill animations that are just deeply satisfying. There's a grapple system where you can grab enemies and transition into counters or throws. There's a counter mechanic tied to timing, and as you unlock more Triad XP upgrades, your combat toolkit just keeps expanding. You get new moves, new combos, environmental awareness upgrades. By the end of the game, Wei Shen is an absolute one-man wrecking crew, and getting there feels totally earned. It genuinely reminded me of the Batman Arkham games in terms of how the combat flows, this rhythm you fall into where you're countering, switching targets, and chaining moves together, but with Wei it has this raw, grounded, brutal quality to it. Less Cape Crusader, more guy who grew up fighting in the streets of Hong Kong and knows exactly what he's doing. Yakuza 0 is wild because it's not a traditional open world in the GTA sense. The maps are relatively small. You've got two cities, Kamurocho in Tokyo and Sotenbori in Osaka. But dude, these areas are so dense with content that it doesn't even matter. Every street corner has something going on, and the amount of stuff you can do is just absurd. You're playing as two characters, Kiryu and Majima, switching between them throughout the story. And this is a prequel, so you're seeing their origins, how they got into the Yakuza world. And the story is genuinely fantastic. This is some of the best storytelling in the series. It's serious crime drama stuff with betrayals and conspiracies and all that, but then the game will also have you do the most ridiculous side content imaginable. That tonal whiplash is part of the charm. The main story is probably 30-40 hours on its own, but that's barely scratching the surface because the sub-stories are where this game really shines. There are over 100 sub-stories. These are side quests that range from heartfelt to absolutely bonkers. You'll help a kid find his dad, and then the next sub-story you're helping a dominatrix learn how to be more assertive, or you're befriending a guy who thinks he's possessed, or you're managing a hostess club, or you're teaching someone how to be a better street fighter. The variety is insane. And then there are the mini-games. Oh man, the mini-games. You can play karaoke and there are full music videos. You can go to arcades and play actual Sega games like Outrun and Space Harrier. You can go bowling, play darts, play pool. There's disco dancing. You can go to batting cages, play mahjong, shogi, poker. You can go to telephone clubs and have conversations with women. You can watch softcore videos. Like, the amount of minigames is ridiculous, and a lot of them are actually really fleshed out. But wait, there's more. As Kiryu, you're managing a real estate business, like you're buying properties, assigning managers, collecting money, and there's this whole minigame around building your real estate empire to become a billionaire. And as Majima, you're managing a cabaret club, where you're hiring hostesses, training them, doing makeovers, managing their stamina during shifts. Both of these business management minigames are like entire games within the game. You can sink dozens of hours into just these side activities. The combat is really fun too. It's brawler combat, where you're fighting multiple enemies at once. And both characters have 3 different fighting styles you can switch between. Kiryu has brawler, rush, and beast styles. Majima has thug, slugger, and breaker. And you're upgrading these styles with money, and in Yakuza 0, money is experience, so you're literally throwing cash at skill trees to unlock new moves. And the combat gets really satisfying once you unlock heat moves, which are these context-sensitive finishing moves. Like, you can grab a bicycle and smash someone with it, or slam a guy's head into a wall, or use environmental objects. It's over the top and fun. If you've never played a Yakuza game, this is the perfect starting point. It's a prequel, so you don't need any prior knowledge, and it's one of the best in the series. Just know what you're getting into. It's a Japanese crime drama with ridiculous side content, and the cities are smaller but incredibly dense. If that sounds appealing, Yakuza 0 is an absolute must-play. Just a fantastic game with an insane amount of content that somehow never feels like bloat because it's all so well done and entertaining.